Come join us exploring the largest temperate rainforest in the world from Maple Leaf Adventures ship, the Cascadia. We're going to fly from Vancouver to Terrace, a little over an hour. From Terrace, we'll take a road down to Kitlope, where the Cascade is tied up, and we'll explore the interior freshwater fjords of the Kitlope, and then work our way back out towards saltwater, around some of the islands where there's abundant wildlife and a great interchange of fresh and salt water. We'll pass Gribble Island with its famed whales and bears and work our way back towards Kitlope over 7 nights. Salmon to these areas and the little streams is like oxygen to the lungs and has fed the animals and the culture in this area for thousands of years. Rain's in the forecast, we're all set for it, so let's go find those rivers. Of course, this being the pandemic here, the first thing we do getting on board ourselves and the crew is get tested for COVID. We all pass, and it's nice to wear no mask. You can see some of my other videos on the Cascadia for details, but it's a 135-foot catamaran. It's been refitted to hold 24 passengers in a pretty high degree of comfort. We're going to meet the crew of 11 and take off. This is a special trip in that expedition leader Kevin Smith on board will be joined by Canadian Geographic photographer in residence, Dr. Scott Forsyth, who will bring some enlightening photography tips. Did I mention the hot tub on board?
We're on the move. Clouds are down at sea level.
Last year, when the cruises were cancelled, the Cascadia and a number of other ships and crew had the important job of collecting thousands of kilograms of plastic waste and debris along these shorelines. We've reached our first anchorage at Eagle Bay, and as Cascadia drops her anchor and we get set up, you'll see the skiffs from the wheelhouse monitors are getting prepared to drop into the water. These two custom-designed skiffs allow us to get into shallow bays, have sonar to see how deep the water is, and a front drop so that we can access shoreline field trips. Like whale watching, bear watching licenses have been created for the safety of both the bears and the viewers. As we approach our first little stream here, we see that there's salmon in the water, and as the mix of saltwater and freshwater gets together, we've seen activity from seals as well and seagulls, so it's a good sign. We're pretty excited, and we see dead fish lying on the ground nearby and signs of bear picking and biting. So we keep a safe distance away, get our telephoto lenses out, and wait, and then we see our first bear. He runs off into the woods, but then shortly after, a brown bear comes out. It's hard to say whether he knows that we're there or not. He can smell us, but he doesn't seem to care, and he looks along a path, catches himself a salmon almost immediately. It's a huge one and lies down in some grass that is already quite a few dead salmon, obviously one of his favorite places to enjoy them. He disappears into the woods. Seagulls getting some good leftovers. This is a popular spot as we see a black bear come out of the woods into his favorite fishing hole. Doesn't take too long for him to catch a salmon. And then he returns for a little bit more active fishing. Bam, he got that salmon, but then he sees one lying on the ground right beside him. He wants them both. Oh, missed it. Okay, well, I guess he'll stick with the one he's got. These bear have so many salmon, and they're so close to them that they get quite fussy, in fact, what they eat. And some of them will only eat the females that have eggs. And when a big bite doesn't shoot all the eggs out, and it's just a plain old male, well, maybe he'll come back and try another time. Food's never far away on Cascadia. We're having our own dinner and wine, and this is a beautiful evening without rain, and we enjoy our first dramatic sunset of our trip. We're now entering the high-sided fjords of the Kitlope, and the interplay of rainforests and cliff faces creates dozens of dramatic waterfalls. The water gets bluer as we start to see glacial influence, and the sunlight plays through the clouds and the rainbows on the trees and the cliffs in a fantastic way. Let's have a closer look at one of those great waterfalls and wash some of that salt water off. If the Kitlope could speak with one voice, this is the man who would be speaking.
Who know me as Cecil Paul, but I still prefer to be called the name of my birthplace in the Kitlope. Wow. Wahed, a good river, to see Kitlope when Granny tells me, wash your eyes in our tree of Mother the Earth, the river. Put another water in your ear so you could hear. Two important things in a human body, your eye and the hearing. The beauty of His creation, and to hear what's inside the creation. You follow human beings, the animals in the forest.
We visited Wahed's birthplace in the Kitlope and washed our eyes and ears in the Good River. I really do think that it's made us see and hear better, and I think maybe even smell the forest better. We certainly became very aware of everything that was around us, of all the living systems. We've settled for the night in the Kitlope, and the next morning our skiffs visit a waterfall and pick up some traps that we had set out overnight for crab and prawn. In the deep cold waters there's a lot of fish life and shellfish life. We catch spot prawn and striped prawn, which we will have for dinner, and Dungeness crab are caught in the other pots. We only keep the Dungeness crabs that are of a certain size, and only males. The females are put back into the ocean. They're quickly and humanely killed, and we prepare the meat in a very minimal fashion to fully enjoy it.
Toast to our beautiful crab and our prawns joining the table. Yes.
He's brave. As we start to say goodbye to the waterfalls and snowfields of the Kitlope, we see a little bit of evidence of the life that existed here. The 10,000 canoes that were reported to have been here prior to a European contact, before smallpox wiped out most of the native population. The pictographs show some of this on the wall. The salmon-based ecosystem also supports a large variety of birds, including these bald eagles. That helps bring the nitrogen nutrients deep into the forest. Seals love an easy salmon meal as well. Cascadia carries a number of inflatable kayaks. These are great. They're safe, stable. Anybody can paddle, even novices, and they're wonderful for even getting into shallower water than the skiffs couldn't get into. And they're not a bad way of wearing off a little bit of that abundant food that we've been getting on Cascadia as well. A rite of passage is to go under the ship. We passed the two sister ships of Cascadia, Maple Leaf Swell, a converted tugboat, which has about a dozen passengers on board. And in the horizon we pass Maple Leaf, the beautiful tall ship that also carries passengers on Maple Leaf adventures, all in exploring Kitlope this week. As we leave our protected Barnard Harbor overnight stop, we're moving into deeper, more ocean-affected waters, and we pass an island absolutely covered in sea lions. All kinds, the bulls, the cows, the pups. It's like a free-for-all. The smell is quite entertaining, as much as the sound of them barking and arguing with each other. Our most seaward outboard stop is Campania Island. We stop offshore, have a look at the urchins and stars along the shore, do some sampling from the skiffs, and talk about the biology and how climate change and man has changed the nature of the populations out here of them and the otters. And then we head to the beautiful beaches of Campania Island. These white, extensive sand beaches are eroding down from the big granite masses of mountains right behind Mount Pender. And there's a boglands in between. The geology here is different from what we've seen, and it's interesting to have a close look at the rocks. The beautiful broad white sandy beaches are home to coastal wolves, and we look for their prints, but we see otter tracks instead. The boglands are interesting as well, and we go for a hike up there. Look at the different kinds of stunted plants, acid-loving and moist-loving plants that are up here. What's interesting especially are some of the shells that are broken up here, right? Birds have carried abalone and snails from the ocean and dropped them and cracked them on the rock. Tucked amongst the many mosses in here were some carnivorous sundews, their bright red stems and red leaves catching ants. As we head back inland again, we pass dozens and dozens of humpbacks. We had an expert herman in the area from the Whale Watch came on board and gave us a talk and played some of the humpback songs to us. The society of humpbacks here is very tightly knitted. They travel often in families, blowing bubble nets to trap fish, and you can use the tail pattern to identify individuals, and you'll see, just like synchronized swimmers, these beautiful families of whales swimming together, and you'll notice how their tails often will match from the same family. It's astonishing to watch them all swimming together, closely spaced and in such perfect synchronization. Bear expert Marvin and Jolene from nearby Hartley Bay have brought us into the only 2 allowed locations on Gribble Island to watch bears. We settle down on the stream full of salmon that are moving through and wait. We're in only one tiny little place here to ensure that we don't disturb the bears. We wait and wait, and our first black bear comes along. He doesn't even notice us. He walks right through the group, and we're being very careful and quiet to not give him any interference. He's definitely more interested in the salmon than he is in us, and shows no notice of us whatsoever. These are all telephoto, by the way. We're not anywhere near these bears. It goes away, and we wait, and we wait, and hours later, just before we go, the spirit bear shows up. This is a subset of a black bear, a recessive gene. This bear actually has black cubs and had black parents. It was an incredible moment, very, very powerful to watch. Between the food, bagpipe music, people, the families traveling together, the shoreline expeditions. If you have a fishing license, try fishing. We did. Didn't catch anything big enough to put on the table, but it was a lot of fun to try. I think that this trip has let us see better, and hear better, and smell things better. And I want to give a big thanks to all those involved on Maple Leaf's part, making it possible as we head into Kitimat, and give some thanks for this great trip.